It was a cold, strange morning in the Ramsay house. Linda Art, the only law enforcement officer inside that day, couldn't wrap her head around what was unfolding before her eyes. The family had reported a kidnapping, and there was a ransom note, with a clear deadline attached. But as that time ticked by, something didn't add up. No one seemed to panic. Not John, not Patsy, not even their friends. The house was eerily quiet, almost hollow, as if it was filled with nothing but silence. Patsy and John barely exchanged a word. They stayed distant, like strangers trapped in the same nightmare. Linda could feel an odd emotional disconnect. It wasn't a shock. It was something else, something deeper. Something was misaligned. Then, she saw John standing in the kitchen, flipping through his mail. No sign of urgency. No sign of a man desperate to find his missing daughter. He wasn't tearing the house apart looking for clues. He was just sorting through envelopes. His calmness was unsettling, almost unnatural. By late morning, the pressure was mounting, and Linda, still alone and unsupported, asked John and Fleet White to help search the house. It was a simple instruction, floor by floor, don't touch anything. But John ignored it. Instead, he went straight to the basement without hesitation, like he already knew exactly where to go. Then, a scream, Fleet's voice, calling for an ambulance. Moments later, John emerged from the basement, carrying John Benet's lifeless body in his arms. No call for help, no cry for someone to call 911, just John, walking upstairs with her, his face completely unreadable. Linda froze. Everything screamed that something was terribly wrong. He had touched the body, he had removed her from the scene. He had contaminated the entire crime scene. But John didn't stop there. He grabbed a blanket, covered her without asking anyone's permission. It felt like a gesture of care to an outsider, but to Linda it was devastating. She tried to intervene, but it was too late, and then came the moment that haunted her. As she knelt beside John Benet's body, John leaned in close. Their eyes met, and for a split second, Linda felt every warning bell inside her ring. She slid her hand toward her gun, counting the rounds. She didn't believe there was any danger from an external threat. No, the killer was in the room, and he hadn't gone anywhere. But what followed wasn't the investigation Linda expected. No, it wasn't the kind of investigation that would demand answers or scrutiny. Instead, it was a system that stalled, that twisted the facts. Evidence vanished. Interviews were delayed or softened. Linda later admitted that she knew who had killed John Benet, but she couldn't say the name out loud. It was clear that someone was being protected. The truth, in Linda's mind, was buried. But it wasn't just the silence from the authorities that was disturbing. It was the silence from the Ramsays themselves. Despite their daughter being found dead, despite the mounting pressure, they didn't wait. They lawyered up immediately, each parent hiring their own criminal defense team, sealing off every conversation with a professional wall of silence. And then came the polygraphs. When the pressure mounted, when public suspicion grew, the Ramsays agreed to take lie detector tests. But not through the police, not with Boulder's investigators. They arranged their own tests, in a controlled environment, with a hand-picked examiner. The results, conflicting. Some said they passed. Others claimed they were inconclusive, but the media ran with the narrative. The Ramsays had cleared themselves. The truth, though, didn't change. It was clear that if you were innocent, you didn't need to create alternate systems of justice. You didn't need to hide behind PR campaigns and private tests. But the Ramsays weren't just facing an investigation. They were managing a public image. They didn't want answers. They wanted to control the story. They didn't need a conviction. What they needed was the preservation of their reputation. And when John was asked about the polygraph tests, his response was inconsistent to stories told to two different audiences. It wasn't forgetfulness. It was a strategy. But it didn't stop there. The Ramsays weren't just playing the game themselves. They were enlisting others. Fleet and Priscilla Stein, the family friends who had been there from the beginning, were by their side, even when they left Boulder. They moved with the Ramsays to Atlanta, each of them making enormous personal sacrifices for a family under intense scrutiny. But why? Why did the Steins follow them so faithfully? What had they seen, what had they known, that made leaving Boulder so critical? The truth was buried, not just in a house but in the decisions made in its aftermath. As Susan Stein, Patsy's closest friend, intervened at every step, blocking journalists, impeding police, and even going so far as to create fake emails and an attempt to manipulate the narrative, she crossed the line between friendship and something far more dangerous. She wasn't just a protector, she was an enforcer. And what did the world see? A story of loyalty, yes, but also a story of manipulation, secrecy, and a group of people working together to make sure that the truth never saw the light of day. The Ramsays were not just fighting for justice, they were fighting for control. And in that fight, the truth got lost. The role of the Stein family in the John Benet Ramsay case raises significant questions that extend beyond their friendship with the Ramsays. While it's easy to dismiss them as simply loyal family friends, there are patterns and details that suggest their involvement might go deeper, particularly regarding their son, Doug Stein. Doug was a close friend of Burke Ramsay, and his presence at the Ramsay home on the night of the murder is key to the unfolding mystery. While physical evidence, such as a boot print found in the wine cellar, was initially linked to Burke, Doug's proximity to the scene raises suspicions. The discovery of a Boy Scout knife which belonged to Burke, and the white nylon cord used to strangle JonBenét further complicates the situation. These items could have been involved in an accidental event, possibly with Doug and Burke playing in the basement when things went awry. An injury to JonBenét could have led to a scream, which might have caused an impulsive reaction, perhaps a blow to the head with a bat or golf club, followed by strangulation. This chaotic series of events suggests that Doug could have been involved either directly or indirectly. After the incident, Doug was quickly removed from the scene, and his parents, Susan and Glenn Stein, might have played a role in shielding him from any potential implications. The Stein family's silence on the matter raises questions about their involvement. If Doug were involved, it's likely that the Stein family chose to protect him, ensuring no direct link to the crime scene. However, there are significant weaknesses in this theory. There is no concrete evidence confirming that Doug was at the Ramsay house that night, nor is there proof of his involvement in any criminal activities at the scene. The physical evidence, such as the boot print and the Boy Scout knife, links more directly to Burke, which weakens the case for Doug's direct involvement. Additionally, there's another hypothesis suggesting that the Stein family helped cover up the truth after JonBenét's death. Susan Stein's loyalty to Patsy Ramsay is well documented, particularly in the aftermath of the tragedy. Susan, referred to as Patsy's Pitbull, was not only a source of emotional support for the Ramsay family but also involved in actions that raise concerns. For instance, Susan is alleged to have sent fraudulent emails impersonating Boulder Police Chief Mark Beckner to influence the public narrative and mislead investigators. These actions appear to be part of a broader effort to control the flow of information and protect the Ramsay family from scrutiny. This theory posits that after JonBenét's death, the Ramsay family turned to the Stein family for help. Susan, with her assertive personality, may have helped craft a misleading narrative, possibly even assisting in writing the ransom note to create the illusion of an intruder. Despite living so close to the Ramsay home, the Steins were not called to the scene that morning, raising suspicions that they might have been kept at a distance to avoid any direct connection to the crime. Susan's alleged actions in sending fake emails to journalists, including one to a reporter praising an article about the Ramsay family, suggest an active attempt to influence public opinion and misdirect investigators. The Steins' actions were not limited to these emails. After the murder, the Ramsay family moved in with the Steins for months, with Susan assuming a motherly role in the household. Susan's behavior went beyond that of a concerned friend. She took on a caregiver role, cooking, organizing, and managing the logistics of the household, which further solidified the suspicion that the Steins were deeply involved in protecting the Ramsay family. The Steins' subsequent move to Atlanta, where they closely followed the Ramsays, also raises questions. Glenn Stein left his job at the University of Colorado to work for John Ramsay's company, Access Graphics, while Burke stayed with the Steins. This level of interdependence suggests a deeper connection, potentially one that went beyond friendship to protect the Ramsay family's interests. While the theory involving Doug Stein has some merit, it lacks concrete evidence to support his involvement in the crime. Similarly, while Susan Stein's suspicious emails could suggest a protective stance, there's no solid proof that she or the Stein family knew what happened that night. Their actions may have simply reflected a deep loyalty to the Ramsais. Another theory suggests the Ramsay family's wealth and influence played a role in the investigation. John Ramsay's company, Access Graphics, had ties to Lockheed Martin, raising speculation about possible illegal activities, like money laundering or drug trafficking. The Ramsay family's lavish lifestyle fuels rumors about the true source of their wealth. But again, these are based on circumstantial evidence, not concrete proof. In the end, these theories, while intriguing, remain speculative and lack hard evidence. The case continues to captivate due to its unresolved nature, leaving us with more questions than answers. It's a stark reminder of the fragility of justice when power, influence, and secrecy are at play.